Welcome everybody to Tech Talk Live. We're just going to stand by a few minutes while people get onto our webinar tonight. So just stand by for a few minutes and we will be right back with you for more Tech Talk Live. And just another minute or two, we've got about a third of our attendees that are registered, logged in. So again, just stand by. Troy and I will be right with you. All right, so here we go.
All right, welcome everyone to episode 3 of Tech Talk Live. If this is your first time attending, my name's Troy Locke. I'm the manager of technical training and technical support for Viga. I'm sitting here live in our New Hampshire Seminar Center, actually in the trenches of the Seminar Center. This is where we do our hands-on training, live in-person training, right? This is great, not just classroom, but hands-on. And I'm joined by my colleague and friend, Bo D'Angelo's 2,000 miles west at our Colorado Seminar Center. Hey, Bo, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks, Troy. Yeah, shout out to a lot of cool people joining the webinar tonight. I'd just like to give a shout out to the Gooden team. So we got a lot of people that jumped on from Gooden. Thank you very much for supporting us. I'd also like to give a shout out to M&H Sales for staying on Tech Talk Live and coming to visit us. We appreciate that. Also want to give a quick shout out to Low Energy Systems out in Colorado. So one of the early adopters of radiant heating, a hydronic specialty house here in Colorado. That's all they do. One of the very first vendors to ever sell a tankless water heater in America. So pretty cool. Thanks for joining us. And then last thing, I'd like to give a shout out and ask a moment of silence for Les Nelson, who passed away on May 20th, Executive Director and President of the Radiant Professionals Alliance. Just a moment of silence for Les. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Les, may you rest in peace, buddy. I remember the early days fighting over the NABCEP exam for solar thermal. He was great to have on the board to try to just, you know, keep everybody together. So that's all I got. We're really glad you could be here. Back to you, Troy.
Thank you, Bo. I actually got a text message from our technical trainer, David. He said he can only see you. I think we're having maybe, I don't know what's going on. David, if you can see me, text me again. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. You know,
yeah, I see.
We are plumbers.
That's really weird.
Okay.
Let's try some other settings here. Let's do this. Let's how about that?
Oh, spotlight video. Well, I can definitely see myself big time in the screen. David, what do you think? No Troy in video. Oh, it says good now. Okay. Yep. All right.
Sounds like we're good.
Hey, everyone. I mean, we're plumbers. Bo and I, technology part, that's for the millennials and stuff like that. No offense to any millennials. You know, you're the ones that, you know, I rely on my wife. She's a director of IT. So at home, I rely on her. I do all the plumbing. She does all the IT stuff. So, but hey, this is Tech Talk Live. This is meant for, contractors, wholesalers, architects, engineers, things like that. So if you're tuning in for the first time, this is meant to be a live Q&A interaction between, us and the audience. So if you notice on your platform, you're going to have a Q&A or ask a question tab or box on your laptop, iPhone, whatever your device you're using. You can click on that Q&A section and you can actually type in your question. We're going to see that question and we can then answer that question live on air, which is fantastic. There's a chat function as well. The chat function is going to be if you want some offline comments, right? So if you just want to say, hey, can you send me some info, or hey, you don't want us to call you out online, right? Some people might get hesitant and think there's a stupid question. There's no stupid question, right? Listen, I ask questions every day. I learn something new every single day. So that's why we're doing this. We decided to do these series, and this is our third episode, to provide insight on press technology, but not only press technology, all of Viga Solutions. And that's why tonight you see me in the New Hampshire Seminar Center trenches, and you see Climate Panel behind me. Tonight's episode is going to be all about Climate Panel. We're going to show a live Climate Panel install and talk about Climate Panel inside and out, everything about radiant heating solutions. So that's what's great about this. So we can go through and have that interaction, Tech Talk. I'm looking around, got all my stuff here. Little fun fact for the day, it is June 3rd, so it's 6:03. New Hampshire has one area code, 603. So when you come to the New Hampshire Seminar Center, you can actually leave to say you've been trained in the Granite State, right? As the old man on the mountain, we are the Granite State, 603, and our motto is live free or die. So I always like to throw that out there for anybody who's attending from, other states, live free or die. You don't have to wear your seatbelt when I'm driving my truck. I don't have to wear a helmet riding a motorcycle, and I can conceal carry a gun without a license or a permit. So yeah, I love New Hampshire. If you can't tell, I got my COVID beard going on, my COVID hair. Thanks to Rigid for covering up my COVID hair. So thank you, Rigid. Haven't seen a barber in, 70 plus days or something like that. So yeah, all right, let's roll right into this. I think somebody said I got a little lag going on. Voice is off a second or two, so I apologize for that. We'll just pretend I'm a puppet I'm a mime. So again, technology is great. Could be a bandwidth issue. I'll slow down if I need to slow down to let it catch up. But it looks great on my end. All I'm doing is staring at myself. So this is great. And I can hear Bo perfectly, so this is good. All right, so looking at we're going to roll right into this with the Climate Panel, because I got Bo standing by in his workshop in the Colorado Center to actually give you a live install. All mine set up. This was probably one of the last trainings I did before we closed due to the coronavirus pandemic. So I left everything in so you could see a final install, and Bo's going to do a complete install with you live on air to go through all the tips and tricks. So what is Climate Panel? Climate Panel is our custom heat emitter for a dry mass system. And what I mean by that is this is a 1/2 inch thick plywood board. It comes 7 inches by 48. Now it comes in singles and it comes in assembled. We're going to show you assembled because I really prefer assembled Climate Panels because it lays down faster. That's the whole point about Viga Solutions. It's about speed, reliability, consistency, and making profit, making money, and having a quality outcome at the end. So this is our Climate Panel system. This is for a dry mass system, goes right on top of your subfloor, right? So I'm going to put this down on my subfloor and I'm going to screw or staple this in. It uses 5/16 tubing and it has the aluminum on the back. We use aluminum, that is going to be your heat emitter, right? So the reason why we put the aluminum on the back side is to comply with the hardwood floor manufacturer's warranties. A lot of warranties for hardwood manufacturers is they say they don't want their product to come in direct contact with the heat emitter. That heat emitter is the aluminum. So we put it on the bottom, so it's on your subfloor. Tubing goes in the channel, and then you can lay your hardwood, tile, all that, carpet, everything right over this. So various finished floors. But for the hardwood manufacturer, we're going to comply with your warranties so we don't affect that for any of the builders or installers. I've seen different panels from different manufacturers that have them on the bottom, have it on the top. Question always is, which one performs better? They actually perform the same. Just because aluminum is on the top doesn't mean it's going to give you more BTUs per square foot. And just because it's on the bottom, same thing. It actually is equal if it's on the top or on the bottom. So we chose to put ours on the bottom to comply with that hardwood floor manufacturer's warranties. We use aluminum too, because aluminum has a high conductivity rate. Because that whole panel is going to heat that surface of that floor, giving you an even heated floor with no striping or anything like that. That's why we use the aluminum. It has high conductivity, low emissivity. So, obviously radiant, the tubing, everything's going to radiate up, but we want that aluminum to conduct evenly across that floor. So that's why we use that. And the assembled climate panels, they come in a bundle with 6 of those individual strips, and they are taped together. So you got a bundle, you cut that bundle, you can see they're staggered in, and Bo's going to go into detail on this on the install, but you can see it's got that staggered in. They open up. So I got this right here. So they actually just unfold. They open up, you get your staggered in, they click together like a puzzle. That's why I like the assembled climate panels, because now I can lay this out faster, stagger them together. And if I need a single piece, I just take my buck knife off the side of my hip here and cut the tape, and now I have a single piece if I need to customize that. So that's the assembled, and Bo's gonna get into that. The 5/16 tubing that we use, I got some on an uncoiler here. 5/16 tubing is what goes in that climate panel. The 5/16 tubing, your circuit lengths, depending on the BTUs per square foot that you're going to try to be getting out of the floor based on the design. And we have a great design service team. If you need assistance with design, just reach out to them. Simple email address, it's design@viga.us. So very easy, get with them. They do radiant heating, cooling, residential, commercial. We do plumbing. We do fire sprinkler for residential applications, commercial plumbing, residential plumbing. So we have an entire design team here in New Hampshire. So this 5/16 tubing circuit lengths is going to be anywhere from 200 to 250 foot max circuit lengths. So, and that's going to be depending on if I'm trying to get, 25 BTUs per square foot out of the floor or 35 BTUs per square foot. I'm trying to get more than that 25. I'm trying to get up to 35 BTUs per square foot. I'm going to shorten those lengths down. So that's where that 200 foot comes in. If I'm trying to get, 25 BTUs per square foot or less, I can extend that length up to 250 feet. So, but again, design service team, a 100 square foot room like this is a 100 square foot bathroom. This is going to be less than 200 feet per tubing. And there's a multiplier in our pocket guide for that. And of course, if you get a design, they're going to lay that all out, and they're going to tell you exactly how many loops, the length of the circuits, the spacing is 7 inches because that's the way the panel is. And they're going to give you water surface temperatures, flow rates, all that stuff on that design, which is fantastic. So, and as far as the application goes, like I said, you can actually put hardwood floor over the top of this. You can put tile, you can put carpet, and you can even put linoleum. When we do a design, the carpet or anything that's going over the tile, the hardwood, when we look at a design, we're actually looking at the finished flooring because every type of finished floor has an R value. So we want to make sure that it was designed properly to get the heat through the floor. But what's great about climate panel is it's right there at the bottom of the finished floor. Where staple up, you're trying to get through, the subfloor, then your finished floor, things like that. A wet mass system, it's a concrete. This is right below your finished floor product. So it's going to be more responsive. It's going to be lower water temperature, so you get a better distribution of energy, low distribution of energy, so it's more energy efficient. So with the hardwood, you're going to want to lay that perpendicular. So if I got my tubing going this way, as you can see on the floor here, if I have my tubing like that, I'm going to run my hardwood in the opposite direction, perpendicular to that climate panel. For tile, what I would do with tile is in our manual, we say any type of cement board or hardy backer, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. A lot of individuals will use a coupler membrane like Schluter, Ditra membrane, because you can put thin set right over this, lay down that coupler membrane and put the tile down. That way you won't have any settling or cracking or anything like that. So I prefer doing that, especially in a shower. You can see I actually can put the climate panel right on a shower. So what's great about climate panel, I can put it in the ceiling, I can put it on the wall, I can put it on the floor. So I can literally heat an entire room with climate panel and customize and wrap that room. I know Brett and I did a design and a training. Brett is our supervisor design services manager now, manager of design services. And we actually did a training and design for someone that wanted to do like a hot yoga studio in their house, and they wanted to cook it. So we're cooking it with radiant heat. So you can get the BTUs needed out of the floor using Climate Panel, and that's where design service will come in to help with that. So, Bo, I'll leave it with you. Go over to, because I know the install is going to take a little bit, so I want you to go through tips, tricks, anything you got, and if we have some questions, we can answer them now as well, and then we'll get some more questions at the end too.
Thanks, Troy. Yeah, we have no questions at the moment, but I'm sure they'll come in. Thanks for the overview on Climate Panel. We appreciate that. A couple things that Troy pointed out, and I'll show you later, was mentioning tile installations. When you're doing tile installations and you are required to use hardy board or backer board or whatever it is, some sort of cementatious board, maybe that's what your tile setter wants to use. There is a trick to show you that a little bit later. But do keep in mind that Troy mentioned a uncoupling membrane like Ditra or Laticrete, any of those work. That's the easiest way to go because you don't have to worry about somebody screwing through your tubing and you don't have to worry about any type of nail strike. So really good way to do it. So let's see what's going on here. Now, I don't know if people can still see you and still see me.
I can see you now, so I think you took me off the spotlight video, which was great, and now I can see you. So hopefully they can see you as well.
I hope so. All right, let's try this. So we'll see if this works, but basically what we're going to do is, yeah, okay, we're good as long as we're working. That's all I care. So I've got a couple camera views here, and we're going to show you an install in this area. So you're looking at dark right now because our automatic lighting system went off. So let me fix that.
That is awesome. I love the technical difficulties. The last episode, everyone, I was in my garage. So, I mean, the last 2 episodes, if you go on YouTube, that's one thing I want to say while Bo's getting the lights back on is follow us on Instagram, every social media platform you can. Follow Viga LLC. So Viga LLC, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you've missed any past episodes of Tech Talk Live, you can get them all right on YouTube. And of course, if you want to follow me, I got a great Instagram page at Trainer Troy. So follow me at Trainer Troy, and I always do some promos and different pictures of installs and things like that. So, and when we get back up and running the seminar centers, you're going to see more stuff on our Instagram page about our seminar center, especially Bo. He's got a beautiful state-of-the-art 26,000 square foot seminar center in Colorado. New Hampshire is the OG, is the original, and we are 13,000 square feet, a couple of classrooms and hands-on space. So let's see, there we go. Perfect. All right. You look good there, Bo. I like this. All right. I can see you. I can see light. Well, I can't see you, but I can see your platform and I can see the light. So this is good.
Nobody wants to see me anyway. All right, I'm going to show you something. We're not doing any PowerPoints or anything weird like that, but I just want to quickly show you, everyone that's on the call or on the show here, just a quick shot of what it is that we are working with. And this is a quick layout done in LoopCAD of the Climate Panel system. And so one of the really cool things about Climate Panel is if you're using our design services team, which I highly recommend, you're going to get a full-on shop drawing that you can go out to the field with and you can lay out with. And the most important thing to think of when you're looking at Climate Panel is you want to count the numbers of the loops or the tails of the loops at the end of each circuit to figure out where your Climate Panel lays out. It is such a simple system to lay out. It's almost intuitive to put a system in. There's a couple tricks that I'm going to show you and things you need to know. But overall, it is a very, very simple system and it installs so fast. You get started installing right away. And what I'm talking about is the, at the end of this outside edge of the room here, we have 6 loops. And that is how I'm going to count where my panel is or my first circuit in the panel is and where my next circuit is going to start. And that makes the layout process really easy. And you can see in this design, we're just showing the bathroom as a separate loop. We could design it into the tub wall. We could design it into the tub base, wherever we want to put it. But right now, we're just showing it on the floor. Something else you see is right here. I'm actually going under the water closet because in this case, it'd be a wall-hung water closet, and I don't have to worry about the closet flange. So I just wanted to show you that so that you understood what it was that we were. And now I'm going to explain to you how we came to this layout on the floor. and it's really simple. So let me turn that off, and we'll go back to the camera, and hopefully everybody can see me or see what I'm working with here. And I'm just going to walk around and kind of walk you through it. So on the original design that we were showing you, okay, we've got tubing coming from our manifold, which is actually back here in the radiant space, right? So we've got a manifold in this space, and that's where we're going to be running our tubing. And our tubing is going to run the perimeter of this space, and it's going to turn the corner and pick up our first 6 loops that are called out right here for this section of the floor. Really simple. So first thing I need to do is use some straight panels to get my tubing layout along the wall and along the outside wall and down to where I actually enter my loops to return back and forth for the panel. And in this case, what I've done is I've actually screwed down some straight panels to the floor here where I'm making my turn. And for my corners, where I made a U-turn right here at this corner, where I made a 90-degree bend, I used our U-turn strips to make a simple bend in the floor or in the panel. Now the U-turn strips, Troy's probably got a U-turn strip there too, but the U-turn strips come multi-directional. So I just want to make sure that you can see this. We've got a multi-directional U-turn strip. I'm not sure which camera I'm on. I'm on this camera. Here we go. That's a lot better. So multi-directional U-turn strip, okay? And you can see that they're scored, so I can cut right through these, okay, to make my 90-degree turn. So what I've done is I've just cut one of these off of a U-turn strip, which come in a 48-inch length, and I've made my 90-degree turn, and that is screwed down in that back corner over there. So let me switch the camera view here. 1 second. Again, plumbers, we're really good at this stuff. Okay, so that's my U-turn strip. Really convenient way to make turns. Something to know that when you are purchasing these U-turn strips, okay, and I've got one set here, it's not screwed down, but I've got them cut because I used various pieces that I had. One really important thing that you want to know is that when you are looking at your bill of materials or how many U-turn strips you need, what LoopCAD is going to do is it's going to count those tails, and it's going to give you U-turn strips simply based on those tails or those ends of those loops, and that's it. It's not going to factor any 90-degree bends. It can't. It's just not built that way into the program. So what I typically recommend is up your U-turn strips on the job by about 10 to 12%. So if it says you need 30 U-turn strips, add 3 or 4 more in, or just round up your packaging till you have enough, because you will need them on the job site, I promise you. They're one of the things you are definitely going to need to complete a climate panel installation. Other than that, you pretty much need assembled climate panels. A compound miter saw is a really handy thing to have. You can do it with a skill saw, but a compound miter saw works best. And then I do recommend that you have a marker or a chalk line, or both, ideally, a Stanley knife, a tape measure, a screw gun, just to attach a few panels down, and then you'll also want to have a staple gun. And this is a really handy staple gun right here. It's just a small 5/16 crown stapler, but you can use a trim stapler. Excuse me, this is a trim stapler. You can use a 7/16 crown stapler. Either of those work. Get one that doesn't have a trigger safety so that you can actually continue to fire the staples by pressing the gun. That will make it really fast so you can staple your panels down. You're going to screw a couple just for quick, easy installation, but when you get down to it, you're going to be stapling these things down. Okay, so for my installation, I've got to come around my perimeter. I've figured out where my tubing is going to enter. I know I've got to run the perimeter of the room, so I'm running across here and coming down this outside wall, and I'm coming back here to where my U-turn strips are. And what I've done is I've just marked my 6 tails on these U-turn strips that I've set down here. Before I set the climate panel, one of the first things that I did was I went around the space and I marked 7.5 inches from my perimeter wall. Okay, so we're going to mark 7 inches for the climate panel, and actually the climate panels aren't quite 7 inches. That's a nominal dimension. You have shrinkage in wood, so just keep in mind that 7 inches is the number that you're going to work with. And I added a 1/2 inch for a little bit of expansion and contraction or drywall or whatever it is my wall covering is going to be. A lot of cases, when you're installing climate panel, Everyone else has backed off the job. That's one of the cool things about Climate Panel, because you're in there now after they've done paint, and we're getting to the point where we're ready for finished floors. And that's the next step after you're done. So one of the cool things about Climate Panel is that you go into an empty building, most of the trades have backed out of the job, and that makes a huge difference in how efficient you can be if you've got an empty job site. In addition, you have less construction traffic over your radiant panel system. So another huge benefit of using Climate Panel. You come in, you do your rough in, you back out of the job, you come back when they're ready for finished floors, you do your install, and you have a nice clean job site to work in while you're there. So another cool benefit of Climate Panel. So I've got my layout down, I've got my perimeter done, and at this point, I'm ready to install Climate Panels. When you get started with a Climate Panel, and I'll show you, Troy showed you a bundled Climate Panel, but basically what I'm gonna do is, before I install that Climate Panel, or that assembled Climate Panel, I'm gonna go ahead and basically cut about 1/3 of that bundled Climate Panel off. One really important thing is, don't cut those straps until after you've cut the bundle, okay? They're gonna help you when you make your cut in your compound miter saw. So this is a panel that I've cut, and I've got one over here that I've already cut. But once I've cut it, I can remove the straps, and it's still an assembled Climate Panel, just happens to have a square end along one edge. And that's what I'm gonna put up against my exterior wall. So back to those dimensions, I was talking about 7 inches, or a 7.5 inch space. What I've done prior to doing this installation was taken a perimeter measurement of 7.5 inches, again, allowing for a little bit of expansion, and I've put a chalk line down. In this case, we used a marker because we don't want to keep re-chalking. But on the job site, chalk line is quick and fast. And that is where my perimeter panel is going to go. It could be a U-turn strip that I've got against the perimeter, because they're 7 inches wide, or it could be a single Climate Panel because I'm running along the perimeter. So very simple. Once I've marked that out, I'm going to install my panels in between those lines. So for my first piece, far back here in the corner, just like the piece I showed you, I've got an assembled Climate Panel that I have cut. And as simple as this, I'm just going to set this Climate Panel into place, push it up against my U-turn strips, which are obviously where I'm going to make my turns. And at that point, now I'm switching off to a complete assembled Climate Panel, which is right here, one with the straps already cut. And like Troy said, like a puzzle, they just slip together and drop into place. And I'm running radiant tubing pretty quickly across this floor. Now for my last piece, I've got to measure how long of a piece I need on that outer edge, right here where the gap is, okay? So typically when I measure those, what I recommend is, and this is something I always would explain to my saw person, because once you get going with Climate Panel, the person that's running the saw is going to be going full time, okay? This stuff goes in so quick that you pretty much have somebody making cuts for you while you're laying the panels down, and they'll be hustling to keep up with you. So watch your fingers and remember your safety glasses. I always measure from the long, okay, and cut from the long. So the longer gap is what I want to measure. So in this case, I've got a 20-inch piece. My measurement is actually 20 1/8, okay? Do not measure that tight with Climate Panel. I get it. I'm a hydronics pipe fitter. Troy's a hydronics pipe fitter. We like to measure really tight, down to the 16th or 32nd. Not with Climate Panel. You want to have a little bit of play, okay? There's going to be weirdness in your floor, especially if you're doing a retrofit and say a New England home built in the 1800s. You're going to have some weirdness going on the walls. Give yourself a little wiggle room. The flooring's going to cover it, so you don't need to cut this stuff super tight. So I'm just going to measure a 20-inch piece, and when I go to cut that, and I cut my full panel, I'm going to measure from the long end, and that long end is right here, which is sticking off. So that's where I'm going to make my measurement from, and it will fit every time. So I've got my 20-inch piece, and again, I made all my cuts just in the interest of noise. And that piece is going to drop right in to my panel, nice and snug, and I'm ready to continue on. So I've got 1, 2, 3 tails. I've got 3 more to do. I actually happen to have my climate panels here, and I'm ready to go. Troy, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say, is there a way to pan your camera to, I'm looking at it, so I'd have to go to the left, maybe it's your right. I just want to see those tails that you were talking about, because I can see the wall more than I can see. No, that's all right. That's all right.
Let me do this. Hold on. Let me pan that
no
camera.
worries.
We're using 2 cameras today. This is high-tech stuff.
Man,
All right, let's try it. How
it.
about I turn the camera and you tell me when it's good?
There you go, right there, buddy. That's perfect.
Like that?
I like that. Now I can see the room, and before you were off of the camera, so I'm glad when you stepped back in. And
okay, awesome. Hey, I got 50-year-old eyes. I can't see from across the room. Okay. All right. So now remember, I said when we cut the climate panel, right? When we cut our original ACP, so here's an ACP right here that the bands have been cut, that I'm actually going to reinstall. But here's my ACP here. And I said when we are going to put our first panel in, we're going to just cut roughly a third off, half, or just cut a chunk off, because that's going to be your starter piece. I would have a leftover piece off the first panel that I cut that would be obviously shorter. Okay? It may work to start my next piece. Okay, that's usually what I'm going to use. It may work for the 20-inch piece. It might have been that I needed a 20-inch piece, and the piece I cut off happened to be 21. I'm probably just going to go knock that 1 inch off on the miter saw and throw that 1 inch of climate panel in the trash. And very, very, very low waste realized on this project. So, but in this case, maybe the piece was longer. So I'm just going to take my drop from the initial panel that I cut, and I'm going to set it back in place over here. Okay. Now this piece here has 5 pieces. I actually know that my return, and hopefully you can see my hand here, my return for this panel is coming back this way. And I'm starting a supply over here, but since my supply is further out from the wall, I had to remove the last piece that was sitting here on this panel. In fact, it's right here. Okay. And I actually took it off of that panel because I've got another circuit returning, or actually supplying the next panel from there. So I just cut it off. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and use my full assembled climate panel. Again, I'm going to set it into the space here. And down it goes. Very easy to put in. Oops. Sometimes just a little tapping with the foot. There we go. So my next piece, and again, if I had to measure here, I would cut a climate panel from this guy, so I'd measure from the long, okay, longer gap, and then make my cut on the saw from the same. My last piece drops in just like that. We'll fold that guy over, and we're ready to go. And so the tails that I was talking about, that Troy asked me to move the camera for, are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is my return. And what I've done is I've just written return 1 right on the climate panel. And I know that my tube is returning back to the manifold across the room. So it runs this way here. And I've got another one of those little 90-degree pieces sitting there. And I just turn and I go back through the floor plate into my manifold. And that fast, I've laid out 1/2, and I can keep going from there. Now, for that, we'll stop, switch the camera back, see if we've got any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Bo. That is fantastic. And that's what's great about Vica's climate panel, is when you showed those U-bends, those U-turns, they have the lines in them to make the cuts, so you can make that 90-degree angle. You should never have to bust out a router, or I've seen guys like try to do custom cuts in plywood with a skill saw. You're not going to have to do that with client panel because it is a 1/2 inch thick plywood, heat emitter. You just cut it with a chop saw. You use your razor knife to cut off the assembled end. Like, he only needed 5, he didn't need 6. So he was able to lop off the 6th one, toss it to the side, and most likely going to use that somewhere else. So very minimal waste. And the layouts that you get from Viga's design team make it quick and easy to understand. And when we have individuals coming to the seminar centers, putting this down for the first time, this room right here is a 100 square foot bathroom. I usually stuff like 4 guys in here because it's a class. You don't need 4 guys to do a 100 square foot room. Like Bo said, 1 guy on the saw and 1 guy laying the panels. And even with minimal direction, because I like people to figure it out and learn from the school of hard knocks when they're here. We give them a little theory, then we like to, bust on them and give them a little, oh, we got no camera for me again, Bo. I don't know what's going on. No camera for Troy. I'm glad we got our backup team with us. We got our special ops team in the background telling us what's up. I love it. Thank you all for that. I appreciate you being online for this. Just trying to see. Do you see me now? Oh, we lost Bo's audio.
I'm back.
He's back. All right. Perfect.
We're just having all kinds of tech issues. It's funny, Troy was talking about the waste. So that's one piece of waste I have from this whole section that I've built out. We have very low waste with Climate Panel. Typically, you'll see like a 5-gallon bucket of waste for a floor of a, like say a 4,000 square foot house. It wouldn't be uncommon per 2,000 square foot, you got about a 5-gallon bucket of little drops that you just can't use. So that's one of the really cool things about it, is that it's low waste. It's a really sustainable product. It's wood and just so fast to install. So we've got a couple questions that came in, and one was from Erica: how far away does the tubing need to be away from the wax ring? And that's a really good question. And we know as plumbers that we typically use a wax ring to set our floor mounted toilets. And in plumbing, we want to make sure that wax ring stays solid, right? So it's made of beeswax. And typically with radiant heating, we like to say 6 to 12 inches away from that. I always usually would try and stay 12 inches away from my wax ring, especially when doing a thin slab or an in slab installation. So again, with a in-wall carrier like Viga produces, I don't have to worry about a wax ring anymore, and I can run my radiant right underneath the toilet, and not have to worry about it. So really good question, and that's something that we really have to keep in mind when we're installing Climate Panel systems. And then another question, and Troy, please, you guys have done plenty of it there in New Hampshire, and we've got a similar setup here, but will it work in any loop variation, wall, ceiling, whatever you want?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you all can see me when I'm talking. But yeah, the thing with Climate Panel, which is awesome, is I can put that in the wall. I can put that on the floor. I can even put that up in my ceiling. Now, when I'm doing a wall install, no, not just the shower here. The shower, you can see we went all the way up. So we went all the way up to, the top of that ceiling with that. Traditionally, if I'm wrapping a room in Climate Panel, I'm just going to use the 6-panel high. So I'm going to use an assembled ACP, and I'm just going to go 6 panels high. That's it. And why we do that is because, listen, people use nails and they have crown molding and different things like that. You do not want to nail, staple something, that tubing in the wall, right? In my house, I wouldn't care. We use 3M sticky strips for everything. Those things nowadays are fantastic. They can hang a truck from them. So I don't put any holes in my walls at my house. So I would be okay. And that's the thing with the design. When I'm doing a design, and if I'm in LoopCAD and I say, hey, I'm doing Climate Panel, it'll ask me, what's your supplemental heat, just in case the floor won't give me the desired heat output. And the reason why it may not give me the desired heat output is because I'm trying to maintain a floor surface temperature of 85 degrees or less. And that's for human comfort. I could cook that floor. Like I mentioned earlier, we did a hot yoga studio. We're cooking the room. They want to sweat. They don't care. But for human comfort, if you were to measure the surface temperature of your skin, and everybody's a little different, but you could be anywhere from 88 to 85, you're going to be warmer. So what happens is you want to equalize that heat because heat energy goes to cold. So if the floor is hotter than my surface temperature, I'm absorbing that heat into me and I can't shed that equally, and I'm going to get uncomfortable and I'm going to overheat and I'm just not going to be happy. So that's why floor surface temperatures are minimal, right? So, somebody will walk into your house with radiant and say, oh, you got radiant, and they immediately touch your floor and I go, oh, it may feel cold. But it depends on my design. Because if I'm running 72-degree water through there to maintain my indoor design temperature, my body is warmer. So when I touch the surface, the heat from me is transmitting into a colder surface and I get the sensation of cool, right? I get that. But my room is warm. My room is up to the design temperature that I designed it for. So I will do supplemental on the wall so that way I can increase the supply water temperatures on that wall and get more BTUs per square foot. So especially if you have a high heat loss area that may need more BTUs per square foot, I can throw this on a wall, ceiling, and then get that heat needed. So yeah, we put it on the shower like you see back here, a nice heated shower. So that way when you're leaning up against the tile, you don't have to worry about it being cold, right? So there's a thing that we can design for. We can do floor heating or warming, like floor warming. So there's two different designs there.
So a question came in about floor warming and came in from David, and he's asking, if I'm not floor warming, I actually have a BTU minimum. He said, well, walk surface, but I think he meant wall surface. Will wall surface account for the footprint?
Yes. So yeah, it'll count for the footprint. Absolutely. That square footage, that ceiling, that wall, that's going to count for your square footage. But I may, and that's a very good question, because I may be having two different supply water temperatures, so keep that in mind. But if not, if I want to keep the same supply water, that will count for square footage. So now I just increase my square footage, use the same water temperature, and get that BTUs per square foot. So very good question, David, because that's exactly what sometimes is confusing. They go, oh, you just told me I can increase the water, but do I have to? No, because if I wrap the room, I can use the same supply water temperature, and I just gave me more of a footprint, more square footage for my BTUs. Absolutely. So very good question.
Especially with bathrooms too, if you think about it, or kitchens, another common area that as radiant designers, we run into these problems all the time. And I'm sure Brett could speak to this. You've got cabinets, you've got an island, you've got a lot of things that are taking up your available radiant panel surface area in a kitchen. So by adding maybe panel to say the front and back of an island, or get into your countertop, or any other areas, or maybe an adjacent wall in a dinette or something like that, you can pick up some additional square footage to meet the load you're missing by canceling out areas by your counters, your islands, and so forth. So really important to consider that. So Troy, tell me you have a 5/16 coupling handy.
I do. Thank you. I do. I have a low profile 5/16 PEX Press coupling.
That thing is
great
so cute. You should make like a necklace. It's like, put it through your ear. Yeah, look how adorable.
You have the piercings. I don't, I'm not good. I'm just that, maybe I'm that good Christian boy. I got no tattoos or piercings, unfortunately. I just grow beards and drink Budweiser, so.
The question that came in was, what if somebody tags my tubing or shoots a nail through my tubing? What do I do? Maybe you could explain.
So that's what's great. So we do have that PEX Press coupling. Hopefully you can see that right here. That PEX Press coupling, that is how you're going to repair your tubing. And what's great about that is that actually fits right back in to the climate panel itself. So I do not have to worry about floor height issues, right? It's flush right now. That's pressed. I already pressed that earlier for, ease. We show this all the time in training, because anybody else's type of method is you have to drill holes, pull the tubing underneath the floor, use a thick compression coupling. We even offer a compression coupling. I don't like them, but we offer them just in case you can't get the PEX Press coupling for some reason. But this compression coupling is not going to fit into that. So I have to cut that floor now, pull the tubing underneath, and have this compression coupling. With PEX Press, it fits right in there, keeps my finish tight so I don't ruin any finished flooring, right? So it's great product. Now that's the only time you have to run in. And that's the thing with Radiant is when I did a lot of Radiant installs, I kind of babysit the job a little bit more. But Bo made a mention earlier. He came in after all the other trades disappeared, right? Like our workshops, we don't have drywall up in here. You didn't see drywall on Bo's workshop either, because we're doing other things in here, rough plumbing, things like that. But But a lot of times you come right in after the drywallers are done, because I don't want them getting their mud, their screws, into my climate panel. So I'll let them come in, put up their drywall, do their thing. Hopefully they clean the space up for me. If not, I got to come in and clean the floor and vacuum it and scrape it. But I'll let the other trades just get out of my way. Let them do their thing. Then I'll come in, let the climate panel down, drill my holes through the floor to run back to my manifold, or drill them through the sill to get it into a wall cavity. And just, they might have to come back and do some patchwork later for drywall, but I'd rather let the other trades come in and do their thing, because I don't want that to happen. I don't want my tubing to get damaged. And that's another reason why I said earlier, when I got my tubing running one way, the hardwood floor guy, he's going to go the opposite direction. So when he's sitting there nailing his hardwood down, he can see the tubing. If he runs it in the same direction, he is going to eventually end up on a lap, right? And right up on that tubing. You don't want that. So a little bit of babysitting other trades is key to a successful job to make sure that doesn't happen. But if it does happen, we got an easy, fast repair. I think Bo, you made this mention one time to me that you used to say, this was a $300 charge. You would show it to them and say, hey, $500, man, see, that's good. I'm taking note of this for future, right? So I know I never did that. So it's like, that's great. You scare them and say, this right here is $500. You want me to come back and put this in? That's $500 for every single one that you do. And that'll make them pay attention. So I like that tip, Bo. Thanks for sharing with me that last time.
The nail was $500. The coupling's for free, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So great
awesome.
points, really, really good points. And yeah, easy to fix if it does happen. But again, babysitting. One thing Troy mentioned was hardwood flooring, and quarter sawn, plain sawn, 3/4 inch solid wood flooring is very popular. It's really nice. It's quality. It lasts forever. But a lot of people like, hand scraped plank and so forth and so on. There's a lot of different finishes out there. Maybe you have someone who wants to install the flooring system themselves, whatever it is. What I often recommend is a high quality floating floor product like a click system with a good top sheet. I was going to mention some name brands, but they're not paying me, so I'm not mentioning any name brands. But there are plenty of really good ones out there. There's 2 really good German companies that make some really good hardwood flooring products that are floating. And what's cool about those is now you're not bound by tubing direction so much, because you can float that over your climate panel, and then we don't care about the tubing direction. We really do care about the tubing direction, as Troy mentioned. When the hardwood people are nailing that floor system down to the subfloor, they really need to be able to see it. So just keep that in mind. You do have options, but if you're putting in hardwoods, it needs to be perpendicular. So a couple other questions. Someone asked about radiant working in the ceiling. David asked, how does radiant work in the ceiling? And again, radiant energy just moves in any direction, right? So kids asked me, I said, heat moves in all directions. And they said, how do you know that, Daddy? And they were very young, and kids are really smart, because I said, well, if it didn't, the sun wouldn't work, right? Because that's radiant energy. It comes from space. And my daughter, being whip smart, she's like, well, how do you know that we're not upside down? And I was like, wow, that's a really good comeback. But I know we're not. So I know that radiant energy moves in all directions. Energy moves in all directions, concentration of high to low. So that's the reason that radiant ceilings work. Most people think heat rises, warm air rises. Radiant or heat energy moves in all directions. It moves in high concentration to low. And so in the case of radiant panel, if you've got a ceiling where the panel surface is, say, 90 degrees, your body surface temperature is 85, heat energy is going to move into your body, and you're going to feel warm, as well as objects around you. So again, another really slick way to add up BTUs per square foot in a room space. So great question. Someone asked if there was such a thing as radiant cooling. Can I cool my house with, or can I cool something with radiant? What do you think, Troy?
There is a such thing as radiant cooling, and it's awesome. Works great in commercial applications, and that's because the construction of commercial buildings. You have a wet mass system, meaning concrete. You have steel girders. You have steel decking. You have metal studs. You have, fresh air intake. You have like dedicated outdoor air systems that are moving air in. So you have some sort of humidification control and things like that. You use the same tubing and heat emitter. So actually in our seminar centers, we actually heat and cool. So the tubing in the lobby and throughout the entire building here, through our lobby and everything, not the office space. The office space in our classrooms, at least in New Hampshire, they are heated, radiant heated, and we got tile, commercial carpet tile down, and they are cooled by air. But when you get out into the large open space with the tile, that is all radiant cooling, and you're using the same tubing, same heat emitter, right? What you're doing though is you're either sending chilled water through it or hot water. So there's a diverting valve that switches over during the seasons. And if it's the heating season, the diverting valve switches over and it sends the boiler water through. So you got my hydronic heated water going through the tubing and heating that space, right? Just like Bo said, radiant, it's radiating up. It's coming out through and, you know, and heat goes in all directions, right? So to cool spaces. And then the chilled water application, the summertime, that diverting valve switches over and sends chilled water through that space. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually have Brett, our manager of design. He is an expert. I actually have him teach the commercial cooling class, and he actually teaches our LoopCAD class because he is the power user with that stuff, very knowledgeable in the cooling aspects. When it comes to radiant cooling for your home, though, residential, there's a lot of considerations that need to be taken. And currently, we don't do designs for that. It's something that's definitely being looked into and studied by all sorts of engineers because it's such a great comfort and convenience to not have, you know, registers or fans or things blowing on you and moving stuff with air. So it's a much more comfortable system. But in a residential home, you technically could, but I have a wooden structure, so I have to worry about moisture. If I'm sending, if that chilled water is too cold and it gets below that dew point, it condensates, right? It gets that water, I can now have mold and things like that. So I need dehumidification. I need a Thermalec air system that heats and cools, preheats and cools the air that comes in, and air exchange. I may need a thermostat that senses humidity at the same time. So there's just a lot of bells and whistles and design considerations in a residential building structure that's made of all timber. But you know, that's definitely something that is being looked into for residential, but we do it all the time for commercial applications and can do a design in-house for that.
Awesome, thanks, Troy. So someone asked if the Rigid has a jaw for that little fitting that you have there.
No, actually they don't. And it's only because, you know, you shouldn't really have to be putting a lot of, the only connection that you're actually going to be using a 5/16 for is the manifold connection, or if somebody staples your tubing. So there's very little connections that's needed. So it's actually a hand tool currently that Viga offers. It's a black handled 5/16 hand tool. I apologize, I don't have one down here because again, most of the connections, you know, we can just do by hand. Bo maybe has one in his workshop right there. Mine's up in the classroom. But it's a 5/16 hand tool because very minimal connections are needed other than your manifold, and if somebody does that. So no, there is no jaw that goes in the press tool platforms yet. There's just not much of a demand for it. And I'll be honest with you, most of the connections on the manifold, I prefer PEX Press, but actually the majority of sales is compression that we actually sell. So we have an SVC compression connection for our manifolds, and that's what most people are using because then you don't need a tool. So, you know, you just need a wrench. But there it is right there. Bo has it right there, so I'll let him talk about it.
Tiny little.
Bo, could you explain how to use our PEX Press hand tools? Because I saw a great photo today of somebody getting their finger stuck in the tool and not knowing how to release it. So please explain to the audience how to use that tool right there.
You really saw that. That's amazing. Okay, I would have loved to. Can you share that with me? Because that's fantastic.
I will send it to you, buddy.
Sad, I'm laughing with them. I'm sure they weren't laughing. Wow. So 5/16 hand tool or any of our PEX Press hand tools, the tool is designed to make a complete press. So you have to squeeze the tool all the way through to get the tool to open. So when we put this press tool down on the fitting, right about there, it's going to click and it's locked. I cannot open it. Okay. There is a little break in the handle here. I'm holding up on the dark shirt so that you can see that little handle here allows me to break it and get a little bit more mechanical advantage so I can get my hands around the tool and I can close up the tool and then the handle pulls out. So I have a little bit more mechanical advantage and eventually I make the complete press and voila, I'm back open again. In the unlikely event you get your finger stuck in the tool, there is a little release screw right here that you can turn. So the tool's locked, I can't open it. I can turn that little screw and it'll allow me to open up the tool. Keep your fingers out of the jaws is the hidden message here.
And those PEX Press hand tools, they go up to 1 inch because that's for our PEX Press product for plumbing and hydronic heating and cooling. So for polymer and bronze fitting. So we do have those hand tools up to 1 inch. Anything over 1 inch, that is going to be a rigid press tool with a PureFlow, Viga PureFlow jaw in there for sure. Our PEX systems go up to 2 inch for both plumbing and hydronic. So keep that in mind. And the handles are color coded to match the color on the ring of the fitting. So that hand tool was a black handle, which matches the black rings on the fitting. So I know it's 5/16. Green, I have a 3/8 SVC connector here. That is a green tab on there. So the handle of the tool is going to be green. I apologize if you're colorblind, then it won't even matter. So, but they are color coded so you can match, easily identify what tool goes with what fitting.
Hey, Troy, can you just hold that little adapter up to the camera again? Either one of them, the 3/8 or the half or the 5/16. Okay, so there's our SVC adapter. I want to tell you about another cool little fitting that we make. We actually make an SVC adapter that allows you to take that fitting over to a 1/2 inch MPT thread. So in the event that you've got a system where you're just doing, let's say you're just adding a bathroom and the bathroom is 30 square foot, you know, even probably back to the mechanical room, you probably still have less than 100, certainly less than 200 linear foot of tubing. So you don't need multiple loops. You don't even need a manifold. Now look, I'd love to sell you a manifold, but if you don't need one, why would you buy one? It makes no sense, right? So you can use that SVC adapter to thread onto the 1/2 inch adapter and go into a zone control, or you can run it all the way back to your Viga manifold, which you could use for both distribution and your loops, depending on how your system is set up. So we actually make an adapter that allows you to go from 5/16 tubing to 1/2 inch MPT and get onto whatever valve or whatever you want. So because not a lot of fittings out there for 5/16, it's meant to be installed in the floor. So we're about 3 minutes out, Troy. We're almost out of time.
Man, that was fun. I really enjoyed it. Hey, even with the technical difficulties, I don't even care about technical stuff because, you know, I think the point came across. And listen, stay tuned for some episodes, other episodes of Tech Talk Live, because we just barely broke the surface of Radiant. You know, Bo just talked about manifold. I have manifold accessories and manifolds over here, but we're running out of time. I want to keep it short. So we're going to have to do another Radiant episode just on the manifold itself because there's so much to talk about with purging, balancing, hooking up your circuits, how to balance, right? You know, do all that stuff. Manifold cabinets that some people don't even know we have. So we have to do a whole episode, Bo, on just manifolds alone, I think. So stay tuned for some more tech talk later on. And, you know, hey, if there's no other questions, I just want to thank everybody. Big thank you to everyone for joining tonight. You know, and the next episode, you know, we've been alternating. So if it's your first time joining, we've been alternating, from 12 p.m. Central to 7 p.m. So every other show goes like that. It's every other week. So anything else, Bo? We got to talk about.
That's it. Nothing else to cover. I will say that if you have any ideas for Troy or I to air on Tech Talk Live, you can email us at techtalk@viga.us. And if we use your idea on the air, we'll give you a shout out. You might even get some really cool Viga swag. So techtalk@viga.us. Also, if you haven't had a chance, sign up for the Viga Rewards program. It's a fantastic program. You buy Viga, you get Viga. You can use your points for tooling, Viga swag, or most importantly, a training trip to get out there and see if you can hold Troy down and shave that beard off, which I think is, ask me.
Challenge accepted. I like that. That'll be fun. I like having fun here. You know, it's no holds barred training at our centers. You know, we take a no BS approach. We like to have fun, good time, and it's just great. You know, I can't wait till we open this place back up. I've missed it. You know, I'm in here missing it. You know, so I hope to see you all soon this year after everything calms down in the world. And take care. I appreciate you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. Again, hit us up at techtalk@viga.us. and check out Vega Rewards at vegarewards.us. And thanks everybody for this episode of Tech Talk Live. Have a great night.
Talk to you soon.